Welcome to Licensed Verdicts, a podcast where we talk about storytelling. I'm your host, Achim.
And I'm your host, Fangling.
Today we have a really exciting guest with us today, Rachael Williams.
Woo. Hi, everyone. Hey, guys. Hello, friends.
Rachael Williams is a spoken word poet, university student, and writer living on Darawal country on the New South Wales south coast. She was an Australian Poetry Slam Sydney finalist in 2018, and in the same year became a published poet in the Street Poets Anthology. Since then, she has featured and performed at Enough Said Poetry Slam, Bankstown Poetry Slam, Westside Poetry Slam, Bread and Butter Poetry Slam, the Art Gallery of New South Wales, Viva Lagon from Wollongong, nice. Gaze Fest, the ACT State Final of APS 23, the National Youth Slam at the State Library of New South Wales, and Yours and Ours Festival.
She takes pride in writing, performing poems based in queerhood, girlhood, boyhood, mental health, social justice issues, and religion.
We're very excited to have you today, Rachael. As usual, we'll interview you in depth in the second half of the episode after our reading updates.
Perfect.
Beautiful.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, today let's just switch things up a little bit. I'll do the reading update first. Literally can't wait because I'm going to talk about this book that has been literally bombarding my Instagram feed for the last couple months. This is the book called The Membranes by Chi Ta-wei, a Taiwanese author. This book was marketed as a sci-fi / queer speculative fiction, which is I was really intrigued by because you don't see that every day from a Taiwanese author.
Mm-hmm.
I think this Monday, I finally made up my mind and then decided to get my hands on one. So I picked up this copy from Kinokuniya. It's also a signed copy.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's really cool.
That's
yeah,
so special.
I love how minimalistic the cover design is. It kind of resembles astrophysics.
But it's an apple?
No, it's a peach.
Twilight vibes.
It's a peach.
peach.
Twilight vibes. Don't even get me started with Twilight. We'll never get off Twilight. No, as a joke. Okay.
Did you say you bought it this Monday?
Yeah, this Monday.
And you finished it in
I
a
finished
week.
it.
Well
yeah,
done.
Yes. I'm so proud of myself. Let's just do a one-word review to kick it off.
Okay, yeah.
My verdict is, no, you just did not do that.
That's not one word. But with dashes in the middle? That
I
works.
loved that. You're
Yeah.
like, no, I did not just do that. Is that like the feeling of the book?
Yes.
Oh, amazing.
Have you guys heard of the show called For Me by Penn Teller? Penn Teller, they're the hosts, so they invite magicians to their shows and then they perform the tricks to see if they can fool them. And then, because I have my fair share of reading of sci-fis and I've seen a lot of sci-fi shows, but I would have to say that this book definitely fooled me. Because it's not one of those hardcore sci-fis like Foundation, like Isaac Asimov, like your Dunes, your Hyperions. This one, it's sort of started off unimpressive and subtle in terms of its sci-fi setting. So it's set in the late 21st century, which is not far from now. And we might live to see it. And then it was like everything is so relevant to our current lives.
What themes did you feel like really connected to today's world?
So what feels really relevant to today is, by the way, it's also worth noting that this book was originally published in 1995.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, when she was only 23 years old.
It's literally
Okay.
it's literally so similar to the book that I'm going to talk about.
Really?
It's literally the same story,
Okay.
but I'll wait.
Yeah, I know that Fangling would appreciate this fact. And I just keep that in mind because, yeah,
We have a lot of work to do.
in Chi's Envision, we had internet, of course. We have 3D printing, we have cybersecurity. And it was also like skincare.
Skincare?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think they had all of those things in 1995. Yes. Yeah.
Wait, no way. They didn't have internet in 1995?
I reckon they had skincare in 1995.
Yes. But
I think the internet existed, but not nearly as widespread
Not-
as it
yeah,
is today.
that's right.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, very true.
And then there was like organ transport,
Okay.
organ transplant.
What a Chinese thing to write about.
Yes. And organ trafficking. We have those like androids.
Okay.
They're like cyborgs. They're half human, half machine. Or they were raised just to, like, they were put into production just to have spare body parts for human to transplant.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
It reminds me a bit of Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro.
that's right.
Yeah.
Spot on, girl.
And this book was originally in Chinese, right?
Was originally written in Chinese. Yes.
Okay, yeah.
And then it's also it's translated by Ari Larissa Heinrich, and her translation is really spot on. I feel like a lot of Chinese idioms and then the traditional meanings being conveyed.
Oh,
Beautifully?
that's no easy task at all.
No. Okay.
Beautiful.
The overall feeling of this book, it's like drinking a seltzer.
Because I've never described like a book as like drinking a seltzer before. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Bless your heart. Go.
Thank
Tell
you.
me.
So it has to be a peach flavored.
Wow.
Of course, yeah. Of
Huge.
course.
Is it because you got drunk on that on your birthday?
So, like, you know how seltzer is like the more healthy version of alcoholic
I
drink?
actually don't drink seltzers, and I've
No, I
never
don't.
truly had a seltzer, so I don't even know
Really?
Yeah,
what
I-
you're talking
I
about
don't
when
really
you
know
talk
what you're
about
talking
what
about.
it
Yes.
tastes like.
So it's light, it's refreshing,
Okay.
and then also like the main point of having a seltzer is like it's healthier than alcohol, like than a beer, for example.
Oh, so
I
you mean
love a
like
good
it is
pale
the book
ale.
is sci-fi, but it's like light sci-fi. It's not like heavy sci-fi. Is that what you're trying to say?
That's one point of it, and
Okay.
then also I just got intoxicated before I realized.
Oh wow,
yeah,
that
yeah.
is that. I love that. Actually,
Yeah.
that's perfect.
Yeah, a lot of references made on like peaches
Oh.
and the
Oh,
tidal
yeah.
membranes. in
That
the
makes
book.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is in the cover. Yeah.
Protagonist is called Momo, which means peach in Japanese.
Oh, special.
Yeah, and then we're just starting off the book by this scene of her mother describing how she came, where did she come from. Her original birth story was inspired by that Japanese fairy tale called Momotaro, which is like the boy being born from a peach.
Like, mom, where do babies come from? They come
Yeah.
from peaches.
Oh,
Yeah.
I've heard of this. Yeah, beautiful.
And then Momo is just exactly the same, except that her parents are both women. That's your inception of a queer speculative. And then just in the future, like the future is inherently queer. Humans have conquered AIDS, like all the STIs. They just don't get hung up on this concept of reproduction as much because they've developed so many other ways to destroy themselves.
Wow.
Yeah. So like
Profound.
yeah. So they just aim to survive at that point, and then they just don't really care about reproduction.
So is the main
Momo.
character the girl? That's a Momo?
Yeah, that's Momo. At the age of 7, she was like diagnosed with a chronic illness, and she was hospitalized in this sterile ward, this hospital room, and she was literally separated from the rest of the world by this like glass. So that's the first layer of the membrane that she felt really like lonely. She was also kept away from her mom, who was really busy with her work. Until like they had a little girl sent into the room to accompany her. Her name is Andy, and they quickly become really good friends, and they're sort of like each other's reflections in a way. Momo was still young, but she was just experimenting with this feeling of affection and love, and then what she had in Andy is basically along the lines of those. And she had this feeling of, what if one day that we can become one, that I can live inside her body. And then
Wow.
there's one time that she was just anesthetized.
She was under.
And yeah.
She thought it was just like another regular operation, but actually it's just like a really profound surgery. After she woke up, she discovered that Andy is gone. That mom told her that the surgery was a success, a total success.
So they removed Andy from her.
Or rather, they combined Andy with her,
Oh my
Yes.
god.
Okay.
and then she was just really upset because Andy is gone, and she was really furious about, like, she thought that her mom took Andy away from her, but at the same time, like, the life just has to carry on. And mom, it's so busy with work, so occupied all the time. But also at the same time, mom has her like girlfriends that she can play with. But Momo is alone again.
Oh.
alone again,
Alone again.
eventually. And then if you think the story so far is good, it's just getting started.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's like the setup. She wakes
That's
up
the
from the
setup, yeah.
surgery and she's merged with her best friend. And that's like the setup.
Yeah. And then she was so estranged from her mother because of her like resentment, her jealousy, that she went to boarding school at the age of 10. And then later on she became a like a skin technician, like a dermal technician. She hadn't seen her mother in 20 years. On her 30th birthday, her mother came to visit her. That's like the overall setting of the story.
So does she go to boarding school? That's after she was merged with Andy.
Yes.
Okay, so she's basically lived her whole life with Andy. Yeah, that does sound very interesting.
It just got really deep into the realm of consciousness and identity.
I love books that delve into those two themes.
Yes. So like she didn't like she was searching for Andy all the time, but then later on, like she really thought that Andy was truly unique, her best friend forever. But later on, she discovered that Andy is just like a product name. It's short for androids.
Oh.
So she never existed as a best friend. She's always just like a robot companion that was injected
So
into
her Andy was specifically made for her to be
Ah.
compatible with her transplant.
That's very interesting. It's like merging with a customized AI.
Truly.
Exactly. What
Yeah,
kind
exactly.
of person would that make you?
Truly.
It just came to her that how much proportion has been taken from her to merge with Andy, or how many organs she required to be transplanted.
Also,
And then-
Andy had organs as well. So Andy is not just like a consciousness robot. She also had like physical organs.
Yes.
Ah.
And then it became this paradox of the boat of Theseus.
I don't know about that one.
It's like you have a boat and then you constantly replacing parts of it until
Until it's
everything on this original boat has been replaced.
True.
And then is it still the
still
same boat?
What is it called again? The boat of.
Theseus.
I see.
Like there's a huge plot twist at the end.
Don't give it away.
Yeah.
No,
I actually
no,
kind of
no,
want to
no.
read
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
I want to
yeah.
read the Chinese
Yes.
version.
The Chinese version, the Chinese copy would be like a little bit more difficult to get your hands on.
Oh, okay.
Because I went to search for those. But I can only get the English one. But I think the English one is just good enough.
Yeah, and you have a signed copy. That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
It's really cool.
I wanted to ask, how
Yeah.
did you get your signed copy?
Oh, it just
It just
lying
came
there.
in.
Just lying there.
Oh, it
So-
just came into your grasp.
Yeah, that's right. And basically, Kinokuniya, they invited the author, like I think December last year, to do like a sign event. And then they just happened to have a few extra copies lying around. Yeah. Okay. That's
it?
my review. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for sharing. That was great.
No problem.
Okay. I guess I'll do my reading update now.
Yeah.
And I have the very incredibly exciting update this week, very similar to story to what Achim just shared. And the book I'm going to talk about is Less Than Zero by Easton Ellis. And we all know that American Psycho by this author is my entire personality. Okay. I read that book in 2022 and I haven't stopped thinking about it ever since. And I like the movie as well, featuring Christian Bale. Even though American Psycho is definitely not the most, like, objectively the best book I've ever read, but I'm really partial to it. And I really love it on a personal level. So when I was in Melbourne last week, in the famous Readings bookshop in Carlton, so I was on a hunt for a couple books to kind of commemorate my first visit there. And I saw a copy of Less Than Zero. And I heard good things about it before. I knew that this was the author's debut novel, published when he was just 21 years old. So your guy was 23, this guy was 21. It's quite a small book, only 200 pages. And on the back, it says, this book is The Catcher in the Rye for the MTV generation.
Oh, okay.
And I was,
huge.
Huge
and
call, huge
I
call.
know. And I was like, say no more, I have to buy it now. And I started reading it in Melbourne, and I finished it in 3 days.
Wow.
And I loved it.
Good work. Was it intoxicating?
Which alcoholic beverage or just beverage in general would I compare
love
it
to
to?
know. I would love to
Let
know.
me think. I think it has to be something like really disgusting that only I like. Because
The soybean juice.
Probably, honestly,
yeah.
it's probably like soy milk, Chinese soy milk for me. I'll sort of explain why later, but I mentioned MTV generation. I looked it up, and apparently it means adolescents in the 80s and 90s, and that's what this book is about. So we follow this 18-year-old boy named Clay, and he is home from university in Los Angeles, California for his Christmas break. So the book is about this 1 month of Christmas break in LA, in his hometown. And Clay is from a very rich and very privileged circle. And his parents and many of the other adults in the book are like executives in the LA film industry. And Clay hangs out with his friends, these teenagers, and all they ever do all day is party, drink, do drugs, have sex with each other, listen to pop music, watch movies, and eat at fancy restaurants.
Oh, yeah, dreams.
Okay. Come through, guys. Live your life.
So that's all they ever do, right? And then the thing that they love doing the most is getting super drunk or super high, do a lot of like coke, and then drive around in their expensive cars.
Of course.
Nice.
Because what else would you do?
Yeah.
I know. It really reminds me of BoJack Horseman, that
Okay.
TV show, because that show is also set in LA, and it very much makes fun of LA's superficial culture.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the title, which is Less Than Zero, is never mentioned in the novel actually, but I think the meaning is that this kind of existence, this kind of life is so superficial that like you don't really exist, like your existence is less than zero.
Mm.
And then Clay, the main character, feels that he is disappearing all the time, that he's simply not there.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Okay. So that was the premise of the book. There's not that much plot. It's more of like a world building or language focused book, I think. There's not that much plot, but mostly you feel the momentum of the world getting like uglier and more violent as the book goes on.
Yeah.
And in the end, it really got quite graphic.
Yeah.
Okay. But so why do I love it so much, right? First of all, and this goes back to the soy juice thing that I mentioned earlier, is that this author's writing style just really works for me. This is personal preference, and I can definitely see that it won't work for everyone, but it just really clicks with me. And I think it's really rare to find an author where you like read one line and you just know exactly what he's talking about.
Yes.
It's so rare.
You're engulfed.
I really love his black humor and his satire. And then I know that some people critique his style as being like too violent. Like, why are all these teenagers so heartless? Why is it so graphic? But like, I don't really see it like that. I can see when and where the author is like presenting the violence in order to make fun of it, or to criticize it, or to like use it to bring out the pain of emptiness that's underneath the satire. Yeah. And my favorite joke in the book is when they mention USC, which means the University of Southern California, where some of those rich kids go to university. But then they say USC stands for University of Spoiled Children.
Oh.
And then they say this hilarious.
Shout out to USC.
I know. Shout out to USC.
I have a question.
Yep.
Is this the same USC where all the kids that are going, they're getting high, drunk, and driving around in their
Yeah.
cars? Bless them. They're doing the most.
Play.
No, not a sleigh. No, not a sleigh. That's
Not
very
sleigh.
illegal and bad.
And then they also mentioned UCLA. And then one
Oh,
stupid
wow.
kid was like, yeah, UCLA, or as the Orientals call it, UCRA. Do you get it? Because like Orientals can't tell the difference between R and L. So UCLA becomes UCRA.
That's
That's very
brutal.
racist.
That's brutal.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
point. The
yeah.
kid is so fucking dumb. And
Yeah,
like,
that's right.
like when I read it, I just burst out laughing.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So if I were to compare it to a drink, it has to be something that everyone else finds disgusting, but I kind of love. So probably the hot soy milk is.
Wow. Hot soy milk.
Yeah, the traditional way to serve it is to serve it fresh and hot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
This book basically is American Psycho, but younger. So the guy in Psycho is 26-year-old living in New York City, and this book is about an 18-year-old boy in LA. The theme is very much the same. Like the author builds this very glittery world full of money and full of surfaces and full of like attractive but empty people. But like in this book, the 18-year-old boy I feel still has a little bit of hope and humanity left in him, whereas the 26-year-old Mr. Psycho is like beyond hope. Yeah.
True.
And on the theme of queerness, Less Than Zero is also more gay.
Okay.
Clay sleeps with boys and girls,
Play.
but it doesn't matter who he sleeps with. The sex is so empty and meaningless, regardless. And then this is funny because the author, whenever he goes to interviews, he gets asked questions about his sexuality all the time. And he never gives a consistent answer.
Like Freddie Mercury in all of his interviews ever. He's like, I'm just a musical prostitute, my dear.
And then the copy that I have has an introduction written by Otessa Moshfegh, who is known for her novel My Year of Rest and Relaxation. And then she says that this book has impeccable timing, which I fully agree with. That's why I can't believe it was published when he was 21. What the actual fuck? It's like, this is not just some like smart, sarcastic tweet that normal 21-year-olds like to write. This is a full artistic work with structure and goals.
100%.
And then like you just can't write that unless you have like a deep understanding of the craft. And I can't believe you had that at 21. That's insane.
My God.
Some people are just built different.
I know. Okay, because I have to say something negative as always. The only bad thing I can say really is that this book leaves you with a profoundly empty feeling
Really?
inside. Yeah, because he makes fun of everything, right? Like if you before you read the book, you like fancy things, you like fancy cars or expensive clothes or whatever. After you read it, you realize, shit, that stuff is so empty.
Fair.
So meaningless.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so meaningless.
Absolutely.
But then it kind of like, it says doing this is stupid, but do this instead. No, he does not give you an instead. He just tells you everything is meaningless.
For sure.
This is more of like a philosophical question rather than a critique of the book, but like, do we think satire needs a resolution at the end? And like, does that resolution make him more or less impactful?
For our own satisfaction as readers, sometimes we lack a really whole resolution from the satire.
Yeah.
But sometimes we don't get it and then we have to just walk away from the book with our own learnings just without it.
Yeah, I think some part of me think that it might be an act of maturity to provide some sort of resolution. But then like maturity, he was 21.
But like maybe there are no answers to every question.
True.
Yeah.
You're right.
Was the unanswering question a great statement within itself?
Yeah.
Like the way it was.
It definitely is.
With the way it was never resolved.
Yeah, it definitely was intended to not have a resolution. But then again, it just leaves you with like a bitter taste in your mouth.
For sure. Maybe that's what was the intention for the reader to feel.
Yeah. I'm loving that you guys are embracing the meaningless.
It's like that.
You should read the book and you let me know what you think.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, okay. That's it for my reading update.
Amazing.
Sweet.
If anyone who knows me will know that I have been reading Olivia Gatwood for years. Do you guys know who Olivia Gatwood is?
No, tell us.
So I found her when I was like 14, 15, 16 years old on YouTube watching slam poetry performances from Button Poetry, because every Australian poet does go through like the Button Poetry YouTube hole. It's amazing.
Really?
Yeah, and she's like this amazing, I think she's queer, performance poet, writer, educator. I'll read a bit about her. She's an educator in sexual assault prevention and recovery. She's the author of 2 books and she's been all over the world, performed at the National Poetry Slam in America, was a finalist at Brave New Voices and Women of the World Poetry Slam. I've never like met or read a writer like her who fully understands girlhood in all its complexities.
Wow.
I think she's so terrific. I've like bookmarked heaps of little poems that just mean the world to me.
Is she Australian?
No, she's from, I'm not sure if she's from New Jersey or New York, but she writes about, one of her poems, Ode to the Women on Long Island, talks about these strong, soft women in New York on Long Island who teach their daughters about the world very quickly.
Strong, soft women.
Oh,
nice term.
Such a fan. I'm such a fan of that term because do you guys know a lot of strong, soft people in your life that you could think of?
Like you?
Thank you so much. No. Yeah, so I've got both of her works here, Life of the Party, poems by Olivia Gatwood, and I've got New American Best Friend by Olivia Gatwood, and these are like cherished books. I even have a few copies of each of them.
Wow.
So I'll give you a line from the Ode to the Women on Long Island, the last part of it speaks to me so much. The way she wrote this, you'll understand, and we'll discuss it after, but the end of the poem is, life comes fast. 1 minute you're taking typing classes for your news secretary job in the World Trade Center, and the next it's almost over. Life, I mean. But I kicked and screamed my way through it, and so will you. I can tell by the way you walk. One more thing, when they call you a bitch, say thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh.
So I find it so interesting, her use of like the use of 9/11 in I'm like life comes fast in the way that this woman she's talking about is taking typing classes in the World Trade Center, and the next it's almost over. 9/11, but also life, I mean. Like, she's one of my favorite writers, or if my favorite
I think
poet.
that reference to the learning to be a typist, that's super interesting, because I think that's what a lot of women did, right?
For sure.
In the 60s, 70s,
Yeah.
they learned to be typists so they can be secretaries to the CEOs and CTOs.
Entirely. This poem talks about also all the women that wish they had been artists but instead were realtors and massage therapists and social workers and housewives and nannies, and tell me they wish they would have been artists, but life comes fast, you know.
Oh,
Yeah, like, she's sensational.
That's a
and
great line.
I could
life comes fast. That's a great
life
line.
comes fast.
And it
so
goes fast.
yeah, like, how quickly did we all become 24, 25? Like, that was
Oh,
quick.
no way.
That was quick. That was so quick.
And I love how, like, in terms of, especially when you're like coming out of school and choosing career and making like life decisions, it can really feel like life comes at you fast.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, you're committed to this lifestyle. And
Entirely so.
It's difficult to change.
It's like she is a slam point to begin with.
Yes.
And then what do you feel like her work is represented on paper? How do you think that
That's a good question.
It's so interesting.
I'm curious as well, yeah.
Her performance is so specific and so carefully crafted and so strong. Like, so when I read her poems, I'm reading it in her performance stage voice.
Ah,
Right.
okay.
Because I'm just like that obsessed with
Yeah,
Olivia
yeah.
Gatwood, right? I love her, and she reads well on the page, but to me her performances just embody the struggle of girlhood so transparently. I think she's a real gift to like the slam poet community.
Yeah, I think slam and page poetry are quite different.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
I think it's great that, like, because you're so familiar with her performance style, you
Yeah.
can sort of recreate a virtual performance in your head.
I read it
by
in her
reading
voice.
it.
I also do the same. Like when I read Neil Gaiman, I also read in his voice. It's like smoky whiskey.
Oh.
Okay, now let's move on to the interview section. Thanks so much for joining us today, Rachel. And could you tell us, how did you get started in poetry, and what do you find most rewarding in the creative process?
Wow. Okay. Hi. Thank you again for having me here. How did I get started? So I grew up on the Central Coast. I went to school on the Central Coast. I lived
Nice.
my young life on the Central Coast.
I love Central Coast.
Right? Oh, do you actually? Have
Yeah.
you been? Do you go there?
I've been. I've just took a vacation somewhere in
nice.
September last year.
Nice. What
to,
part?
Do you know Kilcare Beach?
Yeah. Beautiful.
It's
Beautiful.
so cool.
So good. So good. Yeah. So there was a spoken word night when I was growing up on the Central Coast. My best friend Laura Brown took me to it when I was 16. And because we were in the same English class together, and she's like still my best mate. She brought me to this spoken word night called Speak Up Gosford, and it was hosted by Will Small, who's an Australian Poetry Slam finalist, and he was an amazing mentor for me when I was a young kid. And I grew up with poets like Andrew Cox and Roger, and yeah, like we had this whole street poets crew that we all grew up on the Central Coast together. So I started performing when I was 16 at this local slam around the corner from my high school.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and then when I moved to Wollongong for university when I was 19, there was enough said poetry slam there. So then I started growing up in that scene. I've just been lucky to be surrounded by so many like amazing mentors, wordsmiths, spoken word poets who like teach you so much just in their doing, in their practice.
It sounds so amazing. Like, you had a community always of creative people.
Absolutely. And I feel so lucky to be nurtured by that. And that being said, I've seen so many performances now. I feel like very well versed in like what a spoken word performance has to be, because you just consume so much, and that's how you learn like how to be a better poet. When you watch so many live events, you would feel that too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just love how you said you have a street poet gang.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we were called the
My
street
kinda
poets.
gang.
Yeah.
We were like 16, 17, 18. And every month we'd gather for this spoken word night. We'd have like free food. Imka's mum would cook us food.
Oh.
Like we'd all just hang out. We'd do the spoken word night. It wasn't judged. We were just sharing poetry.
Wow.
We were all like growing our craft so young. And I look back now and I'm like, wow, we were so lucky to have a space facilitated by Will Small, who looked after us so well.
It's so important to have those like community leaders who facilitate this for
Yes.
young people.
Troy Wong, Lauren Elizabeth, Adara in Wollongong, Will Small, like all these people who understand their mission is bigger than themselves and facilitate spaces for poets. Fantastic work. Yeah.
All I hear is our next guest list for licensed
Oh yeah.
poetics.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
yeah.
You need to have Troy Wong in this building. He would love this.
And then it's just so meaningful, much more meaningful than like all this mindless sex and drugs.
Lol.
100%. Honestly, 100%.
Who am I to say?
100%.
Driving my car with all the drugs in my system.
Like all those fucked up kids in that book, they had no idea what poetry was, and they would
that's so
never
sad.
be sincere enough or courageous enough to confront like
That's
a
the
vulnerable
true
part
crime.
of themselves.
Yeah, I
That's
wish,
a
exactly.
true crime.
I
That's
wish I
that's
didn't know
the
poetry.
pain. That's the real
Oh.
pain. Yeah.
I wish I brought them to spoken word events.
Oh.
And
I know,
said,
you would have saved so many lives.
said, guys, don't do drugs and drive your car. Come
Yeah,
hang
just-
out at
just do
poetry.
poetry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just come and write a poem.
Yeah,
Like
that's
people have, I've seen like in real time, people have their whole lives changed by like one poem or a poetry night. You know what I
Yes,
mean?
It totally
It
can
gets
happen.
that deep that quickly. And what other forum is there where you can stand on a stage, tell a story with you can't hide behind music, you can't hide behind anything. You're telling the most raw account of your story. I don't know many other forms where that happens on stage in real time. And
You're right.
And you're telling your own story like as in the written word.
Beautiful. Okay. Seriously, let's get started on
Okay.
The Voice.
Okay. Let's talk about The Voice. I love The Voice.
Okay.
Do you love The Voice?
We need
Oh
to-
my god.
we need to
don't get me
explain what-
started.
Wait, no,
we need to
tell me. What are you saying?
No. We need to explain what The Boys is.
Okay.
Yes, true.
So let's
And
go back to Rachel's poem for the boys.
Right.
Yeah, for
and
the
then
boy.
For the boys.
I love The Voice. That's why I wrote it.
Oh.
So we first heard
The boys
Rach-
love you too.
Oh, bro.
Aw.
So we first heard Rachel perform this poem at Bankstown Poetry Slam.
Yeah.
And
Shout out Bankstown Poetry Slam.
Yes, shout out.
The National
National
Youth
Youth
Poetry Slam.
which
yeah.
Ahim also performed in.
Oh, thank you.
And it's fair to say that Ahim is completely obsessed with Rachel's performance of
Oh,
poem for
absolutely.
the boys.
It's been like 3 months and I'm still hangover on it.
That means the world.
Do people just like approach you on the street randomly and then they're trying to pinpoint you and then they're like but they can't really tell who you are? They're just like
Are you
Yeah,
famous
you're
enough to be
like-
recognized?
like,
now?
you're the one who did the voice.
That's happening a little bit more. I'll be working on set or I'll be, people will come up to me and be like, where do I know you from? I'm like, dude, like The Boys hasn't gone viral. I don't know what
my
you're talking
God.
about. Like it's not like a big deal. And plus like our poetry communities are still like quite, they're small. Even though Bankstown is the biggest in the Southern Hemisphere, our poetry in Australia is still
Small,
relatively
yeah.
like contained. Okay, should I do For the Boys?
Okay. Oh.
Are you gonna be okay? I will say for
everyone.
everyone listening at home, hello everyone on Spotify. I wrote this poem for all the young men in my life that I love unconditionally. Lots of best friends, past relationships, XYZ. So there is heavy mention of suicide for young men. Just a trigger warning, content warning for everyone listening. This poem is called For the Boys.
Oh.
Poem for the boys. Poem for the footy boys, the boys, the Saturdays are for the boys, the full credit to the boys, the how's that boys, they got the vaccine early just to go to the pub first boys, the I'll only tell you after 10 beers boys that I love you boys, the Triple J metal boys, the emo Spotify playlist boys, the gamer boys, the broke boys, the gym bros and the army boys, the my engineering degree almost killed me boys, the secret bye boys, the Bible boys, the I walked in on him hanging boys, the always laughing boys, the boys who want to go on drives for hours boys and don't care if they don't come back boys, the smoke weed every second of the day boys, I'm dropping acid alone boys, and for the boys born biologically female boys, for all the boys I love, fuck, what a shit show. I'm sorry for the entire shit show, the slaughterhouse statistics and stabbing silence, your mental monologue, so quiet, so compliant. It's like you've all made an alliance not to describe it. So blast your music, wear your seatbelts and drive, because car crashes aren't the biggest killer of young boys. It's suicide, boys. I see you small and scared and so human. I see you when I cannot see my own best friend, so I hug you tight at parties and I hand you letters I have written, and you will think I'm weird, but I'm grabbing at any man that reminds me of him, which is all of them, to feel a pulse come back to life. Boys, sometimes when I hug you, I will press my ear to your chest just so I can hear how alive you really are. Boys, have I told you I am now becoming the age he was when I last saw him? Boys, I ask you to play your music in the car because I want you to tell me how you feel. I don't want you to skip the depressing songs or try to set the vibe with an indie pop surf rock disguise. Play me the shit you fall asleep to. Play me all of your heavy, heavy music. Play me the records that saved your life, and I'll play you all the records I wish I sent him. And lastly, to the boys who have passed over, God knows you can hear me. I camp overnight on your Facebook accounts and I watch your mother perform CPR every year. I wonder how many of our 200 mutual friends stalk your digital grave like I do. How many are sitting, watching, replaying too? I sit and I watch and I pretend I am not scrolling through a haunted Times Square front row of an autopsy. At the top of your profile, you are a stuck statue frozen in time, forever 14, and at a gather tasting beer for the first time. You died when fisheye camera lenses were still being used at parties, and now this is 10 years ago, and now the sun is coming up, so I'm falling asleep. So until next year, I'll read. Happy heavenly birthday, son. You are 24 today. Thank you for saying hi when you flickered the lights on and off for us. I know you are still here. Thank you for listening.
Thanks
Thank you
so
for listening.
much.
It's
just
really
give us
intense.
some moments so we can cry.
Oh no,
Aw.
It's not. I didn't write it with the intention of trying to make people cry.
Really?
No, truly. I didn't. I honestly, there wasn't a poem in the Australian community or wherever. I couldn't find a poem that described what it's like being a woman or being a young girl, like describing the loss of an important man in my life or important friend or partner. We have to talk about these things. I'm so fucking over losing so many amazing artists, musicians, friends, family members to suicide or to mental health issues. I'm over it. So I have to write. I have to try and help. If it helps anyone, then I'll try and write my whole life for that purpose.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening.
It just hits me every time. Like,
oh, dude.
yeah, I listened to it on YouTube multiple times, and then I see you perform today. It just hits me again. Oh,
That means the world because I wrote it for the boys.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because we have to take care of all the men in our lives because
we do.
we love them.
Well, I have a question.
Yeah.
You performed it multiple times. Like, does it feel similar every time you do it, or was it a little bit different?
It takes me to the same emotional place every time, but because I'm constantly trying to concentrate on like tone and pacing and body movement, like things like voice control, projection, and like elements of like an individual theater when you're on stage, it does take me to a different place every time. Sometimes you really connect with the audience. Sometimes like I'm in tears after all, like it depends. And then if people come up to me after the performance and people like will come up to me in tears and like that really affected me, and that'll take me to such a raw place because you're connecting with a person who's connected with the story and like
individual theater. I love that.
It is because when you do understand from performing spoken word too. You're doing all the elements of theater, but you're one person on stage.
Yes, even though you're addressing to like many boys, but I feel like you're just having a one-on-one conversation.
Yeah,
it's so intimate and just really connects with the audience. With me, yeah.
I did write it for one guy in particular.
What you're doing is admirable.
Oh,
yeah,
dude. No, just like you would feel the need to write too. Like, you know, you just need to write, you need to perform, you need to get it out. It's just like, you love it.
Yes.
So you live in it.
But in particular on the suicide, on mental health topic, I think men's suicide rate is like 6 times higher than women.
Yeah, it's like...
Oh, really?
Yes. Because you have this societal pressure of men, be tough, be strong. Yeah, if you're having like difficult thoughts, just go talk to someone.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Reach out.
Let's go a bit deep into the lines.
Yeah.
Where we see you I see this multiple times through your work that you sometimes use like a narrative style that feels like a stream of consciousness.
Yes.
Do you do that on purpose, or is it something that comes to you naturally?
Honestly, for most of my poems, the audience experiences what I'm experiencing for the first time. So like I write a line, and if I'm like happy with it, I don't overly edit something. So it is quite a stream of consciousness. And if it's like emotionally charged and it's like it works for the piece of poetry or whatever, yeah, you are experiencing in real time like the narrative stream of consciousness truly. Because you guys ever just like write a poem like in one sitting, you're like, I've done it.
I try that, but it's always shit at the end. No, so I don't show it anymore.
No, you'd be surprised how
good it is.
How good like a first obviously there has to like I try to edit heaps, like, but you'd be surprised how raw and emotional a first draft can be of poetry, because it's like just straight from your soul, from your mind, through the pen.
There's like a recurring theme of playing the music in the car. Does that carry any significance? Because to me, it feels like, you know, how men are taught not to speak about their struggles. They're always trying to mask it. You feel like if they like blast out this loud music, that they can be just quietly hiding their like internal monologue.
It's a great image.
I guess I wrote that as like, if you can't do anything else, if you can't reach out to your mates, if you can't tell anyone, get in the car, put your seatbelt on, blast your music, just drive. Yeah. I do that. And I put it in the perspective of the boys' poem. I've struggled with heaps of mental health issues. When I can't work something out, when my heart is not corresponding with my brain or whatever's going on, I'll get in the car, I'll put my music on, I'll take myself on a drive. It like totally like helps me out. And then I use that in the perspective of boys do this too. Like if there's nothing else that you can do, listen to your music, please, like use this, because I know like heaps of the metal community and heaps of the heavy community are so intertwined with like mental health stuff, and like they blast their music. And
do you have a playlist name?
Oh my gosh, my playlist. Spotify is hilarious. Is a hilarious place. Yeah, I mean, I got Crying in the Club. That's a classic.
Yeah.
That's just like 6.5 hours of like pure like driving like and crying.
Whoa.
Oh nah, but yeah.
So crying in the club or crying in the car?
Crying in the club, but
okay.
and then
but then it becomes
it's
crying in
supposed
the
to be
car.
a joke, but it's like dead ass. Like this is my crying playlist.
But yeah, I have this crying playlist. It's not like bawling my eyes out crying.
Yeah,
it's like
I hear you with that one.
Yeah, like a silent wailing.
Yeah.
It's called Will You Wait?
Will You Wait?
Yeah.
That's so beautiful. Is that about a person? Possibly.
So I name playlist just with a song.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, so like all my playlists are named with this iconic song in the list. And then this is like this song that I discovered is like a hidden gem that no one really knows about.
Yeah, I think we're ready to wrap up. Is there anything else you'd like to say, Rachel?
I think we should have all the boys write a poem for you.
Yeah.
Bless your heart. What would it be?
I write a poem called Poem for the Girls.
Yes.
Girls commit suicide too.
I know. I wrote a poem called For the Girls.
Oh, you have?
You
Sorry, you have.
Yeah, I did.
Really?
But it's not dark at all. It's not. I don't know why when I was writing it, I just couldn't finish it in a really dark way. But there is.
You don't have to finish everything in a dark way.
There's sequels. There's trilogies. There's everything. There's a For the Girls dark version coming.
Oh, so many
It's in the works. It's gonna be talking about my experience, and that's gonna get fucked up.
Oh no.
Plus,
Go to BPS to witness the performance of that.
Yes, come to Bankstown Poetry Slam, Enough Said Poetry Slam, Bread and Butter Poetry Slam, West Side Poetry Slam. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for being.
This has been amazing. We love the boys.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being a guest. We had a great time recording, and I hope our listeners enjoyed this episode.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Licensed Poetics, and I'm your host, Achim.
I'm your host, Fang Ling.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye. Ooh, yay.
Never seem to notice all the time pass through. In this final moment, I'm still chasing the truth. I wanna